Renato Figueiredo had a habit of waking up before sunrise, not out of discipline, not out of ambition, but because the silence of the early morning was the only time the mansion didn't seem so empty. He would walk barefoot down the marble hallway, run his fingers along the cold kitchen counter, prepare a coffee that never tasted like anything. He would sit by the panoramic window overlooking the sleeping city and stay there, watching the lights that blinked below like small promises that no one would ever keep. At 43, Renato owned a chain of medical clinics spanning 4 states. His name appeared on lists of influential business people. His face graced the covers of business magazines. His suits cost what entire families spent in a year. But nobody knew that he dined alone every night. Nobody knew that he had deleted all his contacts from his cell phone one December morning, and that none of them called back to ask why. Renato's loneliness wasn't noisy. It didn't come in the form of tears, despair, or crisis. It came in the tasteless coffee, in the congratulations no one gave, in the way he entered meetings full of people and left emptier than when he arrived. He smiled with his mouth, greeted with his hand, closed deals firmly, and inside, something in him had given up looking for what was missing. His marriage to Beatrice had lasted 8 years. She was beautiful, elegant, articulate. She frequented the same circles, wore the same brands, spoke the same phrases at the same events. Renato believed that this was love because it was comfortable. But Beatrice didn't love him. She loved what he represented. And when he, in a rare moment of vulnerability, said that he wanted to have children, that he wanted a simpler life, that he missed something he couldn't name, she looked at him with such clean, polished disdain that it seemed almost gentle. "You don't need children, Renato. You need a psychologist." She left 3 months later. She took half of the assets, 2 apartments, and the last piece of Renato, who still believed in someone. After the divorce came the fleeting women. Models, businesswomen, heiresses. They all arrived with broad smiles and bright eyes. And they all left when they realized that Renato wasn't fun enough, wasn't lighthearted enough, wasn't the character they imagined. He tried to be. He truly tried. But there was a sadness in him that couldn't be hidden for long, that seeped into the corners of conversations, that appeared in the silences between one glass of wine and another. "You're too intense," one of them said before leaving. And Renato understood, in that sentence, that the world didn't want depth. It wanted a shiny surface. It was on a Tuesday in July, under a light rain that didn't warrant an umbrella but slowly soaked everything, that Renato saw her for the first time. He had parked his car near a square in the city center because he needed to sign some documents at a notary's office nearby. As he crossed the sidewalk, he almost tripped over her. A woman was sitting on the ground, leaning against the wall of an abandoned building with a gray blanket over her shoulders and an open book in her hands. The rain fell on the pages, but she didn't close the book. She read slowly, her finger tracing the lines, as if each word deserved to be touched before being understood. Renato stopped. Not out of charity, not out of curiosity, but because something about that image disarmed him. A homeless woman with stained clothes, her hair tied back with an old elastic band, her bare feet on wet concrete, reading. With a concentration he didn't see in board meetings, with a dedication he didn't find in anyone. She looked up. They were brown, deep-set, with a clarity that didn't match the dirt around her. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't extend her hand. She just looked at him as one recognizes someone who also carries too much weight. Renato looked away and kept walking. But he thought about her all day. Her name was Clara. He only discovered this 2 weeks later when he returned to the same square. He told himself it was a coincidence that he had business in that area. But I knew he didn't. I knew he had returned because of her brown eyes and the wet book. Clara was in the same place. This time without a book, just sitting with her hands crossed on her knees, watching the movement of the street as if watching a movie she wasn't part of. Renato approached slowly, like someone approaching a bird that could fly away at any moment. "Do you like to read?" She looked at him suspiciously. She didn't answer immediately. She sized him up with her eyes, from his tie to his shoes, from his watch to his posture. Then she said, in a firmer voice than he expected, "To like is an understatement. Reading is the only place where I still exist." Renato felt a tightness in his chest that he hadn't felt in years. It wasn't pity. It was recognition. Because he too lived like that, searching for a place where he could truly exist. He asked if he could sit down. She said the sidewalk was public. He sat down. They remained silent for almost 10 minutes, side by side, a man in a suit and a homeless woman, watching the same fine rain that continued to fall as if the sky were in no hurry to stop. In the following days, Renato returned, always at the same time. Always with the same vague excuse that neither of them believed. He brought books, novels, poetry, short stories. He left them beside her without saying anything. Sometimes she accepted them with a nod. Sometimes she returned them the next day with a short, precise comment that revealed a sharp, almost cutting intelligence. Clara was 36 years old. She had been a literature teacher at a public school in the interior of Minas Gerais. She had had a house, a husband, a life that seemed secure. But the security was an illusion built on the fragility of a man who drank more than he loved. Her husband lost his job, then lost control, then lost his patience. Nights became minefields, shouting became routine, and when Clara finally gathered the courage to leave, she discovered she had nowhere to go. Her family blamed her. "You should have endured it. Every marriage has problems." Her friends distanced themselves. "We don't want to get involved." The system swallowed her whole. Without a fixed address, without the documents she had left behind when she fled, without a support network. Clara fell slowly like someone slipping on a slope, trying to hold on, but with nothing to hold on to. She slept in shelters when there was space, on the street when there wasn't. She worked odd jobs that lasted for days and paid almost nothing. And she read. She read everything she could find, collecting books from garbage dumps, church donations, abandoned stalls, because books were the only space where she was still someone, where her intelligence was still useful, where words still treated her with respect. Renato didn't learn all of this at once. Clara released the pieces little by little, like someone handing over shards of a broken mirror, slowly, carefully, because each piece still cut. He, in turn, also opened up. He talked about Beatrice, about the empty nights in the mansion, about the tasteless coffee, about the feeling that everyone around him wanted something from him, but no one wanted him. Clara listened without interrupting, and when he finished, he simply said, "At least you have a roof over your head, but the emptiness is the same." That sentence did more for Renato than 3 years of therapy. Weeks turned into months. Renato started bringing food, warm clothes, and hygiene products. Clara accepted them with dignity, never with submission. She never said thank you with the voice of someone who feels inferior. She said thank you as someone who recognizes a gesture and returns respect. And this way of receiving was so different from everything Renato knew that he began to realize something that frightened him. He was no longer doing charity. He needed those encounters as much as she did. But the world wouldn't allow it to be that simple. His driver was the first to comment. "You've been going downtown a lot, Doctor." Then it was his secretary's turn. "They're saying you've been frequenting Praça da Sé. Strange people there?" Then it was his partner's turn. "Renato, I heard you were seen sitting on the ground with a homeless woman. For God's sake, think about the company's image." The word indigent stuck in Renato's throat like a thorn. He wanted to answer, but he didn't. Not because he was ashamed of Clara, but because he realized that any explanation would be useless. The world had already decided who Clara was, based on the clothes she wore and the ground where she slept. No one asked her name. No one asked what she read. No one asked how she'd gotten there. Judgment came before curiosity, as it always does. Renato began to go in secret. He would change his suit for simple clothes, park his car far away, and walk to the square as if on a secret route. And each time he sat next to Clara, he felt he was in the only place in the world where he could be real. And one night, he found her shivering. The temperature had suddenly dropped, and the gray blanket wasn't enough. She was huddled against the wall, her lips purple and her eyes closed, and for a moment Renato felt a fear he had never felt before, the fear of losing someone who truly mattered. He took off his coat and placed it over her shoulders. She opened her eyes and said in a weak voice, "You don't have to do this." "I know I don't need it," he replied, "but I want it." Clara looked at him for a long time, and in that look, something changed. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't a declaration. It was a silent surrender between two people who had given up on finding someone and who, unintentionally, found each other. The following week, Renato made a decision he knew would be misunderstood. He rented a small apartment downtown, not a penthouse, not a flashy place, a simple apartment with a large bookcase and a window overlooking the square. He offered it to Clara. She refused. "I'm not a social project," she said, her eyes hard. "I don't want to be the poor person the rich person saved. That's not dignity. That's another form of prison." Renato felt the weight of those words, and for the first time in a long time, he truly listened. He didn't try to convince. He didn't insist. He didn't argue. He simply said, "So tell me, what does dignity mean to you?" Clara thought for a moment. Then she replied, "Dignity is being able to choose. It's having the chance to start over on your own 2 feet. I don't need someone to carry me. I need someone to believe that I can walk." Renato understood. He no longer offered the apartment as a gift. He offered it as a loan, on the condition that Clara use the space to reorganize herself and look for work. She accepted, not with submissive gratitude, but with the firmness of someone making an agreement between equals. Clara began giving private literature lessons, first to 1 student, then to 3, then to 10. Her eyes, which once read alone in the rain, now guided other eyes through stories that transformed them. She recovered the documents. He opened a bank account. He bought clothes with his own money, and each small achievement was celebrated in silence with the same restraint of someone who has learned that life can take everything away at any moment. Renato watched everything from afar, respecting her space, visiting only when invited. They sat in the small room, drank coffee, and for the first time, the coffee had a taste. He spoke about the emptiness he felt at the company, about how the numbers grew but the soul shrank. She spoke about her students, about how a 15-year-old boy had cried while reading a poem by Drummond. And between these simple conversations, something grew nameless, unlabeled, unhurried. But the hardest part was yet to come. It was on a charity gala night, an event Renato was obliged to attend because of his position. He decided to invite Clara, not as a social experiment, not as a provocation, but because I wanted her to be there. I wanted the most genuine woman I had ever known to be by his side in the most deceitful place he frequented. Clara appeared in a simple dress she had bought at a popular store. Her hair was loose, she wore no heavy makeup, no jewelry. Among the glittering women in that salon, she seemed out of place, and at the same time, she seemed the only real person. The glances began even before they reached the table. Whispers, smirks. A woman Renato knew from events approached and asked with feigned sweetness, "Renato, darling, who is your date? I don't remember her from our circles." Before he could answer, Clara extended her hand and said calmly, "Clara, literature teacher. And you?" The woman blinked, disconcerted, murmured something polite, and walked away. Renato looked at Clara and felt something he hadn't expected. Pride. Not the pride of someone showing off an achievement, but the pride of someone witnessing true courage. The night was long. There were more glances, more whispers, more veiled questions. But Clara navigated it all with a serenity that wasn't indifference. It was strength. The strength of someone who has slept on the floor and knows that no ballroom can humiliate more than the cold rain of a roofless dawn. On the way back, inside the silent car, Renato said, "I'm sorry about that." Clara replied, "Don't apologize. Those people didn't hurt me. Life hurt me, and life has already exacted its price. Now all that's left is to decide what I do with the change." Renato pulled the car over. He looked at her. And he said what he had been holding back for months, what he swallowed every time he sat on the sidewalk next to her, what he felt when the coffee finally tasted good, what he had known since the day he saw her reading in the rain, her fingers touching the words as if they were sacred. "Clara, I love you. Not out of pity, not out of guilt, not because I want to save anyone. I love you because you're the only person who makes me feel like I truly exist." The silence that followed lasted an eternity compressed into seconds. Clara didn't cry. She didn't smile. She simply placed her hand on his, squeezed slowly, and said, "Me too. But I needed to know it wasn't gratitude. I needed to know it was love. Now I know." The months that followed were not a fairy tale. They were real. Clara continued teaching, expanded her work, and opened a small community reading room for children in the area where she had lived on the streets. Renato restructured the company, reduced his workload, and began allocating part of the profits to social projects that weren't just for headlines. They were for changing lives that no one saw. They moved together into an apartment that was neither a mansion nor a palace. It was a place with books on every wall, a window overlooking a square, and fresh coffee every morning. Renato learned to cook. Clara learned to trust. They both learned that true love isn't what's promised in grand gestures. It's what's confirmed in small ones. The business partner distanced himself. Some friends disappeared. The business press published articles insinuating that Renato had lost his mind. Beatrice, his ex-wife, sent a curt message. "I hope you know what you're doing," he replied with 2 words. "Finally, I know." Clara never asked to be accepted by that world, and Renato never asked her to change to fit into it. What they built wasn't a perfect fit. It was a true fit. With rough edges, with scars, with mornings when the past returned and they had to hold each other's hands until the pain passed. One Sunday afternoon, Renato found Clara sitting on the living room floor, leaning against the bookshelf with an open book in her hands. The late afternoon light streamed through the window, gilding the pages. She read, tracing the lines slowly with her finger, just like on that first day in the square. He sat down next to her, on the floor, without saying anything. Clara looked up. She smiled. A small smile without exaggeration, without haste. The smile of someone who has finally found the place where she can exist completely. And they stood there, side by side in silence, while the city outside continued noisy and hurried, unaware that inside, on that simple floor, 2 people whom the world had tried to separate were together in the only way that truly matters. Truly. Because love, when it's real, doesn't choose an address, it doesn't ask for a resume, it doesn't check bank balances. Real love recognizes the soul before the name, the truth before the appearance, the human being before the label. And when 2 people meet at that level, where it doesn't matter where they came from, but where they're going together, something in the universe settles, as if it had always been that way. Renato learned that the wealth he sought wasn't in any bank account, any contract, or any audience applause. It was in the brown eyes of a woman reading in the rain. It was in the coffee that finally tasted good. It was in the silent courage to sit on the floor next to someone and discover that there, exactly there, was where he should always have been. And Clara learned that the dignity she so fiercely protected wasn't threatened by receiving love. It was threatened by refusing to live. That accepting someone's hand isn't weakness. It's the greatest proof of strength there is, because it's easy to survive alone. The difficult thing is allowing yourself to be happy in that room filled with books, with the soft sound of pages and the comfortable silence of those who don't need to fill the void with words. Two human beings whom life had broken finally found the missing piece. Not in each other, but in themselves, reflected in the gaze of the one who chose to stay. And they stayed, not because it was easy, but because it was true. And the real one, when it arrives, is in no hurry to leave.